October 9th, 1980, Pope John Paul II greets the Dalai Lama during a private audience in Vatican City. The event later inspired Street Fighter.
Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Hack Scary.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
And Slew Cowers.
Yeah, fuck. I usually go with Brains Flayin', I guess. But I'll come up with something by the end. It's our the doubt in Zach's voice reflects the doubt in my mind. It's the spooktacular season here for Revisionists. The bats are flying around,
chains in our hair.
Mm-hmm.
There's ghosts and goblins and Das
the Canadian ghost, yeah.
All that kind of thing. Frankensteins and mummies and werewolves. Every kind of spooker you can conceive of. They're all in the studio.
With Bayou Zach also, apparently.
Yeah, we got them all. We got them all. All the Universal monsters. Nothing newer than 1950, though.
We got.
Is that our cover story for the background noise?
Yeah. No, the background noise is there is a literal banshee in the room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's that howling you hear in the background.
Well, listeners, for our first Halloween episode this year, first of 3, because you're joining us on an off week, and it's also like 4 in the afternoon. So
if you're listening to this at time of release, we were going to release one on October the 1st. Scheduling was a problem, so we're going to do 2 in a row. One this weekend, one next weekend, and then we'll do one right before Halloween, 2 weeks after that, so we can continue to have 3 Halloween episodes, because they're some of the most fun and spooky episodes of the year. Actually, they're spooky in a way that's enjoyable. Most of our episodes are spooky in a way that, like, oh, the evil man is capable of.
Yeah, exactly.
Is beyond imagination. Can we ever evolve as a species? Are we doomed to an early demise? That sort of thing.
Yeah, spooky.
Speaking of which, Witold Pileski, who
wait, hang on, before we continue, joining us for this episode, very special Halloween guest, Jennifer's Body by Karen. I couldn't come up with a good Halloween name for you.
I was gonna go with Jen Cow.
That works, yeah. Jen Kaulik, and of course, our backup singer, Kathleen, who has probably made an appearance by now. But thank you for being here.
Of course.
Filling in. But yes, Zach, take us back to last time, speaking of the depths to which man's soul is capable of reaching.
Yeah, we talked about Witold Pileski, which, while not a person whose soul sank to the unimaginable depths of the worst of human depravity, definitely someone who was adjacent to it in his life. A man who volunteered to go to and escaped from a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. Brian provided an alternate history, which sort of didn't change the facts on the ground, but provided sort of this Groundhog Day situation where he relived the day in an attempt to do what is best for the preservation of history and the preservation of, the best, what's for the best of mankind. And ultimately, our listeners voted on that history. It's difficult to encapsulate because it was very much a written piece. So if you're curious about that history, I think it's best to listen to it firsthand rather than get a quick blow by blow in this particular case.
Yeah. But of course, thank you to Jose McCall for joining us on that episode. Yeah, and this is going to be just probably a hard left turn. I haven't seen your alternate, but it's probably going to be a hard left turn back into what is more typical of what we do.
Especially for a Halloween episode, yes.
What we do in the shadows. because it's Halloween time, and that's a show about vampires, funny vampires. Yeah,
that's what it says in the fucking TV guide. A show about vampires. Parentheses, funny vampires.
yeah. I mean,
Would
I
it
think
be a
that's a fair
show about a
description.
show about funny vampires?
Yeah, that's true.
This time we are talking about the Tsavo Man Eaters.
I've just gone with Tsavo, but
Tsavo. Okay,
That's
that
what
makes sense.
That's what I found. Yeah.
You may know them by the names that the people who victimized them, who they victimized, gave them. The Ghost and the Darkness.
I was gonna say that's quite a take.
Well, it was a mutual,
Yeah.
a mutual circle of victimization, I guess.
Spoiler alert.
But two African man-eating lions from the early 1900s, if my memory serves me.
Late 1800s.
Late 1800s. So obviously I didn't do either the real or the because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and as usual, I didn't lift a goddamn finger. Actually, I believe that Brian is going to be presenting the actual history of
Yes, indeed.
of these two man-eating lions.
Yes. Retooling, because I was going to use the lion thing as a reveal, sort of a third of the way in.
I'll bleep myself. You know what? Every time I say lions, I'll get a bleep.
Oh man. Listeners, also, right before we started recording, we had just like a rush of things we had to figure out at the last minute. So my brain at the very
we
least,
had to break a Nazi code right before we started recording.
Yeah.
The Enigma code was ongoing. We've recorded this in 1944.
We did it. It's all gonna turn out for the best.
Yeah.
I thought we were working on the Zodiac code. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone who saw our Instagram story that I got so excited that I should have known that TMZ breaking the identity of the Zodiac killer probably meant it wasn't fucking true. Because
At the very least, it's quite debatable.
Yeah, apparently I couldn't read the whole article because it was behind a paywall, but San Francisco police are saying that that suspect has been officially ruled out for reasons.
For reasons.
Yeah, again, behind a paywall. Support local media. Anyway.
He was a cop, and cops don't do that kind of thing, so that's why. I'm
He
just
was
kidding.
a
That's
cop.
not the reason.
Sorry, I started singing Skater Boy to He Was a Cop.
I was just making a joke about how the police is a corrupt institution that covers their own from, embarrassment and things like that.
Yeah.
Also, the Golden State Killer was a cop.
Yeah.
Wasn't
He was indeed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And is, I believe.
Wait, what?
And is. He is a still alive person, is he not?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But a retired cop.
I think
Yeah,
I took that to
the
that's true.
line really is that once you are convicted of murder and imprisoned for the rest of your life, you probably don't get to be a cop anymore.
Yeah. But
Well, the
also,
I
convicted
think that's
part's a big
probably
ask,
the line.
apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or apparently once you're caught like faking a serial killer in order to fund an illegal wiretap on a drug organization, you're sort of like in a weird limbo where you're still a cop till
Don't
you
give
close
spoilers for good shows.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, so I'm gonna take us back to 1898. British East Africa, which is today the country of Kenya. And 1898 is about 3 years after the British took control of the area, which was,
1895.
Yes. Yeah. That's some fast math.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm talking like this. The area was, of course, previously the home of like the Swahili, Kiyuku, and other peoples. And anyway, the British created the East Africa Protectorate, in part to gain access to ivory and furs, but also the British claimed to disrupt the slave trade in the area. Because to stop slavery, you gotta do a colonialism sometimes, I guess.
Also, they didn't stop slavery in the area.
No, not really. So, but that's what they said they were gonna do. So
It's the thought that counts.
I mean, no, not in that instance.
No, it doesn't.
So anyway, in 1890, the British Foreign Office proposed the construction of a railway from Mombasa, Kenya to Uganda. Again, ostensibly to disrupt the traffic and enslave people going from the interior to the coast. I guess the theory being that if there's a railroad, the slave traders won't move people through the area.
Everybody knows one of the classic things about slave traders is they can't cross a railroad.
Mm-hmm.
That's they have to ask permission before they can enter your home.
Mm-hmm.
They can't cross a railroad.
If you throw a bunch of rice at them,
they're allergic to zinc. Right.
They're
if you throw
allergic to-
rice, they have to count every grain of the rice before they can continue to pursue you. All of these are classic things we know about slave traders.
And hey, if you ever meet a slave trader, feel free to bury a stake in their heart.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's legally actionable for me to say that now. But anyway, but also, like, building the railway, it enabled the British to get soldiers deployed quickly throughout the African Great Lakes region. So like Kenya, Uganda, area around Lake Victoria, where there was basically not just like conflicts with the people who's, lived there, but also like France and Belgium and Germany and other colonial powers in the area. There's only one existing caravan route that ran the length of the country. So the British began surveying a new one through untraveled territory. And when that route reached the Tsavo River, which is near the modern border with Tanzania, the territory of the Wata or Sanye people, they came across like a river crossing, basically, that was used by slave traders who were forcing people to basically walk the continent as part of the trans-Saharan slave trade. And when people would die of disease or malnutrition or thirst, the slavers would just leave them where they fell, basically. So again, ostensibly in their battle to fight slavery, the British imported about 32,000 people from India to build the railroad.
And from what I understand, there's not anything specific that ever says that I found like that, hey, they were not there voluntarily, but it's pretty clear that they probably weren't.
Yeah.
And also, if you read parts of John Patterson's like memoir about this time, there were like lots of men who were refusing orders and some men who were caught planning a mutiny. And whether like those stories are probably embellished because it was a memoir that he wrote to make himself seem heroic. It was like his exploits in Africa, etc. But there is definitely a ring of truth to some of it.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, willing or not willing is a weird thing when you're subject to a colonial power. But Halloween. Anyway, the crew along the Tsavo River needed to build a bridge, and they were camped in an area spread over 8 miles, just about. And Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson, who was an Irish member of the British Army, was sent to oversee the building of the Tsavo Bridge. So he arrives in camp and sets about organizing the job. And a couple mornings after his arrival, the workers wake to find one of their comrades has been dragged from his tent and ripped apart, dead. If that wasn't clear from the ripped apart. Because
Not
usually
emotionally ripped apart.
no. Yeah, no, he's singing "Crawling in My Skin" or whatever the fucking Linkin Park song is.
Unfortunately, listeners, briefly for a moment there, I was having like internet issues and I was a moment behind. So just so you know, that's the only reason I didn't make an 8 Mile joke a few moments ago. Otherwise, I certainly would have.
I almost did, but I'm like, I only know like a couple things from the movie. I mean, basically like Mom's Spaghetti.
I know
and
it's a
Vomit on
movie
the Spit.
starring Eminem, to be honest with you. I've never seen it. I don't plan to see it, but
I
it's
think
Eminem. I think it's Detroit.
Yeah. I think I owned that on DVD in middle school.
Oh, cool.
It's about 2 weeks when I tried freestyle rapping. So
Wow. You
I'm
know,
learning so much about
well, middle school me was a very different animal than the beast you see before you.
you.
in 9th or 10th grade, Brian wanted to go by the nickname Day Day, which I think he got from the film Friday.
Yep. Yeah. I had eclectic movie tastes. And also we had to pick nicknames in theater class on the fucking fly. So I did not like think about it super hard.
I have no recollection of what I have recollection for what my nickname was.
I only remember because
for some reason
like,
yours
mine stuck.
I don't know why, yeah, but yours definitely stuck. Mine didn't stick.
Yeah.
Honestly, mine was probably like Zap or something, because those are my initials, and that's usually what my nickname is. Like when people ask me, because I don't want to, listener, I don't want to have a nickname.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like
fucking
fucking
thing to do to a child also. To like sit in a group of your peers and try to give yourself a nickname with no prep or warning whatsoever.
Although much better for my fragile like 9th grade ego than like sitting in a group of my peers and having them name me based on the traits they see in me.
Brian's here day after day. Old Day Day.
I can't believe that stuck, and that there were so many apparently fans of the movie Friday at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado.
I don't know why. I don't know if I knew at the time it was from the film Friday, but I pieced it together after the fact.
Pieced it together like you're the fucking Warren Commission.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fucking TMZ solving the Zodiac case over here.
Oh man. Oh.
So in other words, you thought it was like Little Man or something instead of Friday.
Yeah, fucking another. Also, like the real Zodiac killer will always be John Carroll Lynch, of course. That's the actor's name, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the actor's name. Ted Cruz, something. He played a character named something Alan Lay. I don't know if that guy's been cleared officially for the case, but that's the character he played in the David Fincher movie.
Zodiac, great film. Watch it this Halloween. Anyway, so the culprits for the ripping apart of the worker are a pair of lions.
We were telling a story.
Yeah. Oh, right. We were telling a story, I think is our motto at this. We have several mottos at this point, actually.
We will never do the Holocaust.
Yep.
And oh, right, we were telling a story.
And
also now it's we do not endorse alternate histories.
Yeah. Yeah. So the lions have been stalking the camp basically since the very beginning. They were two maneless males, basically circumcised lions. Ew. Where the mane is the foreskin.
Thank you for explaining that.
No, the current seriously, folks, the current theory is that the Tsavo area is hotter and drier than the Serengeti as a whole. So the lions there evolved past the need for hot, thick, thirsty manes. So the lions struck.
Thirsty. Okay.
Yeah, because took a lot of water, I guess. I wrote thirsty manes. I did this.
I thought they were used for thirst traps, thirst traps.
I mean, I guess
like
they
in
are
Lion
used for
Tinder,
mating.
it's like Lion Tinder's like
The
don't
guys who
date,
have the
don't
biggest
date any
names.
shorties without a mane.
Yeah.
Of course, lions holding up fishes, lions with the dogs they don't own.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All that.
Scars
Leaning on
need not
sports
apply.
cars that aren't
Mufasa's
there.
only.
Every single profile says my motto is Hakuna Matata. Anyway, so the lions struck at night, pulling sleeping workers from their tents, and the workers eventually nicknamed the lions the Ghost in the Darkness. And normally lions don't attack humans as a primary food source. Usually it's territorial incursion or there's like a lack of other food. But not these babies. No, these lions were all about the human meat.
Well, and there are several theories.
Yeah, which I'll get to that in a little bit.
Sure.
Patterson instituted strict after dark curfews, burned large bonfires at night, and constructed thorn barriers around the camp in an effort to keep the lions at bay. And if anything, the attacks escalated. Workers would often wake up to the sound of screaming coming from nearby tents as another person was dragged off to the brush to be eaten. Patterson says that some of the workers, again, from his memoirs, so grain of salt, some of the workers believed the lions to be spirits punishing the crew for building the railway, and that Patterson brought a curse upon them by arriving. But basically the attacks sort of suddenly ceased. And, you know, the workers would hear rumors of attacks at nearby camps. But, you know, for the most part, and also that was like not unheard of in the area. For the most part, though, they were safe for a while. But just as like their routine started to get back to normal, the ghosts in the darkness returned. And not only did they return, they began to attack basically every night. And yet construction on the bridge continued until the point when workers just began abandoning camp and running away into the wilderness. Mr. Whitehead, the aptly named colonial district officer, was attacked by the lions after arriving in the train depot one evening. His assistant, a man named Abdullah, was killed, but Mr. Whitehead escaped with only 4 claw scratches down his back. And so Patterson had been previously deployed in India and was what Wikipedia called an experienced tiger hunter.
Oh, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Yeah. On his resume, experienced tiger hunter. Wikipedia.
Yeah. Well, I did find his LinkedIn and it said experienced tiger hunter, Microsoft Office, sort of thing. So
yeah, Excel, proficient at Excel, expert tiger hunter, the usual.
Conflict resolution, and the oppression of native peoples. So Patterson set out to hunt down the ghost in the darkness.
And I just a quick note, because I feel like it's very telling. It's not really anything to do with like the progression of the story. It just pisses me off that like there are literally men being dragged from their tents and mauled to death in the middle of the night, and work continues.
Yes.
Until they finally start running away.
Yeah.
Like if your workers are being murdered, you don't care. But if they finally start walking off the job because it's so unsafe, like then, oh, I guess we have to take care of these lions. They weren't a problem before.
I mean, speaking of right now, listeners, if you're listening, don't buy Kellogg's. Because
What do they do? Oh, fuck them.
Not that someone found a scab in their cereal.
In their kettle,
Literally,
okay.
there's a strike.
This
going
is
on.
not about that frozen shrimp story from 4 months ago.
Is that a weird fucking story that like took like 6 different turns, all of them predictable.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with about 20 assistants, Patterson set traps in the vegetation and had workers march through, banging cans together to flush out the lions, while Patterson perched on an anthill with his rifle, waiting for the lions to emerge from the brush.
Hey, you know those lions that have been attacking you guys while you try to sleep at night? Why don't you go through the bushes,
Try to scare
banging
them.
cans? Yeah, try to flush them out.
Yeah, you know the
honestly
night
thought-
demons.
Be live bait for me, will you?
When you started saying, those lions who, I thought you were going to make a joke about how them banging the cans, you were going to be like, those lions who have been trying to kill you in the night? Well, listen to this. Very much Back to the Future reference. But,
Yeah, but it's just Marty McFly being mauled to death.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of a Warriors thing, I guess.
no,
Movies I
it's
haven't
me, your
seen in a very
cousin,
long time.
Gary Darkness.
Oh man, Gary Darkness is going to be like my goth metal like stage name. Also for some reason I want to watch Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Gary's a very hardcore name for sure.
Hardcore Gary. We all know a hardcore Gary. Anyway, so this hunt went on like night after night. Meanwhile, the ghosts in the darkness are still attacking the camp. But one night, Patterson, holding his rifle on the anthill, sees one of the lions emerge from the grass about 15 feet in front of him. He fires a shot, and it hits the lion in its hind leg, and the lion walks away, not even apparently wounded. And then that lion begins to stalk Peterson, which gave him an idea, I guess. So Patterson builds a, did I write Peterson earlier? Patterson builds a makeshift tree stand and ties a goat to a stake. Real Jurassic Park. The lion, and one night the lion comes up, but before Patterson can get a shot off, is able to run off with the goat and the stake.
Now the lion's got a stake.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
he has even more weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the next
yeah,
day
he
the
drops
goat,
someone down
the
an
goat-
elevator shaft and says, "I have
the
a
goat
stake."
has
Ho,
a sweater
ho, ho.
on. Yes, indeed. Now I have a stake. Ho ho ho.
Patterson is very much the Ellis of this story, though, more than anything. God. But then it finally works. Patterson kills the first lion with his goat bait. And then 11 days later, he shoots the second lion twice while it's stalking him. That lion runs off, and Patterson finds it the next morning, wounded but alive. Patterson shoots it 3 more times, which only crippled the lion. He then trades guns and shoots the lion twice in the chest and once in the head.
Trades guns with who also?
Someone with a better gun, apparently.
Apparently.
I guess they were like
I guess
doing
when you're-
team battle
when
on
you're-
GoldenEye or
yeah.
something.
When you're hunting 2 fucking notorious man-eating lions, you don't bring the best gun.
Yeah,
You bring the second best gun to start with.
for the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume he traded guns with somebody who had Pokemon Blue, probably. Because that's the only way to get certain guns.
Mhm. Yep. Just get the old link cable going and hook that up. So Patterson claimed that when the second lion died, it was still gnawing at a broken tree branch trying to get at him. Just showing how ferocious he was, which I would be doing that too if someone was shooting me a bunch in the chest. But like, yeah, I know, sweetie. Much later, hair samples from the lions would contain trace elements of human meat, confirming that these were in fact the right lions.
Oh, When you eat human meat as a lion, it goes into your hair. I guess when you eat human meat as anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, so don't think you can get away with it by anamorphing out from lion form and then eating people. Because they can trace that shit. So there are a number of theories as to why the Ghosts in the Darkness became so aggressive. Of course, like as previously mentioned, the incursion of humans into their territory, and also a rinderpest outbreak devastated their normal food supply. But it's also believed that the lions acquired a taste for human flesh by scavenging the dead bodies left behind by the slave traders just throughout the region. There's also evidence that at least one of the lions had major dental problems, and humans are just generally easier to eat than like a lion's normal prey, because they don't have to like gnaw on a bunch of bones to get it, like, because the Ghosts in the Darkness tended to stick to like the soft, easy meat of like thighs, stomachs, and like butts, basically. That's where the soft, like, listeners, if next time you touch your butt, like, feel how soft the meat is.
People like butts. Why do you like
Very
butts?
soft.
You don't
Nice
like
and
butts
pillowy.
because they're hard, except
Yeah.
sometimes you do, I guess.
Look,
I like my butt soft and pillowy. I don't know what you're talking about, Zach.
yeah.
I mean,
it-
yeah, all bodies are beautiful. But
Well,
You know.
so here's the thing that not everyone maybe knows about the way that lions and tigers and other predators like that hunt.
bears.
Oh my.
Bears, exactly. They don't kill their prey like with their claws or like by like going for the jugular or something like that. They suffocate their prey. Say like a lion is like chasing an antelope or whatever, like the lion will catch the antelope and put its mouth over the antelope's mouth and nose to suffocate it.
Moo.
Yeah, like that's how they kill their prey.
I
So
thought that most feline predators used like a back kick to disembowel their prey.
That's just for style, I
yeah, I
think.
think so. It's
I mean, that might be for like eating
yeah.
too.
I'm just kind of thinking like if I had to like suffocate a moving animal with my mouth in order to eat, and I had like
We've all seen that episode of
know,
Fear Factor.
like
And
a
that
really
episode
bad,
of
like,
Seinfeld, which was a weird one.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I had like a really painful wisdom tooth or something, like
Classic Kramer,
I
can
would
I
go
say?
for something that was already dead,
Yeah. Yeah.
or at least
Like,
only has two legs to run on.
yeah. Or just
Maybe something that's already sleeping.
the butts
Yeah.
also.
Well, I
Maybe
heard
just
that the
butts.
lions were Antifa and they were against colonialism, and that was that's what I heard.
Yeah,
were
Greg, you got a fucking
SJWs.
lion truther.
Some SJW lions.
No, we're not. Again, we disavow Q. Jesus. So Patterson sold the lions' corpses to the Field Museum in Chicago, where they are still on display to this day.
Hey, I could go see them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their skulls are in a case right next to like the taxidermied skins.
Mhm.
The thing is, though, the diorama where they are like taxidermied, it's a little misleading because first, Patterson used the skins as fucking rugs for like 10 years or something.
Oh.
And then he sold them to the Field Museum. So by the time the museum actually got them, like they were kind of tattered and damaged. And so the taxidermied animals that you see in the exhibit are actually smaller than the lions were in life, because they literally had to like trim the edges where like the skins got like super ragged and shit.
Like, it had like spaghetti sauce stains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We still got like $5,000 for them,
Yeah.
which in today's money is like $1 billion.
Something like that. Patterson wrote that the workers gave him an engraved silver bowl as thanks for killing the lions. And Patterson also went on to lead the Jewish Legion in World War I, and did advocate for the formation of a Jewish army to fight the Nazis. Was also a major public advocate for Zionism, and is known today as the godfather of the Israeli Defense Forces.
It's interesting. So wait, but the ghost. So this was like late 1800s.
Mhm.
He must have been fairly young because obviously
Mhm.
it was like 40 years before the Nazis came to power.
Yeah, I think he had to have been like in his 20s or maybe early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like late 20s, early 30s. He was also whatever the late 1800s version of the Troubles was. He was there for that too in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of the ongoing strife.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that just like preceding the Irish War of Independence. But that is the actual history of the Tsavo Man Eaters, the Ghost and the Darkness.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for your true history of these man-eating lions. Jen, I believe you have an alternate take.
I do. And I want to start by talking a little bit more about John Patterson.
Mhm.
Because
Johnny P.
Yeah, old Johnny P. We don't have a lot of broadly accepted historical records about him outside of the year that he spent working at the Tsavo River site. There's like the basics of his military career, and other than that, that's pretty much all the information that we can find about him.
I did truly have to look up to make sure that the name of like the mid-tier novelist was not also John Patterson, but it is indeed James Patterson.
It is his great-great-grandson though.
Yeah, and of course his James Patterson's assistant Dan Kuntz.
Dude, I don't know if you could literally be telling the truth. Like nepotism is granted in modern day and age. If people have the same last name and they're famous, like chances are it's like, yeah, my dad was also famous.
Actually, I came across reading the actual history. Apparently, like Benjamin Netanyahu's grandfather named one of his sons Jonathan after Patterson. So speaking of nepotism, the Netanyahu family.
Mm-hmm.
The nepotism Yahoo family. No, there's plenty of worse things to criticize them for.
Yeah, like apartheid.
Sure.
Ooh,
Yes.
Sorry.
No, I mean, it's a Halloween episode. We have to do that. We're contractually obligated to do that every 20 minutes.
Indeed. So there is actually some evidence, if you look at things like some workers' journals that have survived from the time, that Patterson was not the hero that he seemed like. Because the workers were right in thinking that it was significant that the attacks started right after the arrival of Patterson and his assistant, Andrew Kirby, at the Tsavo River site. I've
heard that Kirby will eat anything.
It's true. It's true.
Very suspicious.
Mm-hmm. He puffs up to 3 times his normal size and just unhinges his jaw and
yeah, he's got that Kirby
just
girth.
goes wild. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be horny for Kirby.
Everybody's horny for Kirby.
It's true.
He's the sexiest character. He was named Time's sexiest character 15 times in a row.
You don't get sexier than that.
And then he did his little dance.
I don't know why Time Magazine does sexiest video game character and has for the past 20 years, but they do. And Kirby wins every time.
You'd
They
think
do the man
Luigi
of the
would win at
year
least
and
once.
the person of the
Yeah,
year
no,
and the next
Wario.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah, Wario's in second.
Yeah,
And-
Wario's in second with that mustache.
And then,
Yeah.
This is going into a weird area.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Is that your fourth motto?
look, it's 4:50 in the afternoon, baby. It's time to talk about sexy Wario. Blaze it.
So what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Patterson and Kirby. They hadn't come to Africa just to build bridges or railroads or seek personal glory. They had heard tales of the destruction wrought on the continent by slavers and colonizers. Tales of murder and mutilation, mass graves and bodies left on the roadsides. And they knew that this was the place to indulge their own dark appetites.
Mm.
Spooky.
Well, that was actually spooky. Like,
I
you
know.
didn't have to say,
But it also has to
less-
be
But
funny.
that's
'cause this is
actually
fucking
a
comedy
very
podcast.
good. That's a very good instinct, I think, on Jen's part. Like Shannon and I have been watching Midnight Mass, and whenever something
Yes!
scary happens, then Mike Flanagan edits himself into the episode saying "spooky." So it's actually really good.
We're
I've
only on,
noticed that, right? We're big fans of it.
yeah, we're only on
Yeah.
episode
Yeah,
4,
like
so
some dead cats wash up on the shore, and then Mike Flanagan's voice comes in. He's like, "Spooky." Don't worry, listener. That's episode 1. It's not a big. But now you know there's animal death. Now
yeah,
you know
that's
there's
not the that's,
Yeah,
that's
it-
not the climax. A bunch of dead cats watching up on the beach.
I mean, it was for me. That was the most upsetting part so far.
Yeah.
We're like 4 episodes in. I'm still not over it. Where were we? So far there's only one known eyewitness account of Patterson's transformation. We don't know where or how he acquired this ability, but there are theories. Having been born and raised in Ireland, there is some speculation among family that he was a changeling.
Mm. Sorry, had to fight back the instinct to do an accent. You're welcome.
You were not entirely successful. if
No,
I'm
I was
honest. Some of the railway workers believed him to be a witch. One such worker, Hira Singh, had a journal. And shortly after Patterson and Kirby's arrival, Singh woke up in the middle of the night because he had to pee. At the edge of the encampment, though, he saw something that frightened him to his core. A man, he wrote, was half transformed into a lion. The jaws, jowls, eyes, and ears were quickly shifting back to that of a man he recognized as John Patterson. Deeply shaken, in the morning, Singh began making preparations to leave the camp. His one comfort was that he didn't think Patterson had been able to identify him in the dark. But he was wrong. Singh was devoured the very next night, one of the first men to die in the so-called lion attacks.
You are telling me that a man named Kirby is able to transform into a lion. I mean, there's a very logical explanation. I hate to go back to it, but he did a big old suck on a regular lion.
Okay.
I'll get to that. There are theories. We don't know for sure.
He did a big old suck. Sorry. I could never play Kirby in Super Smash Brothers again after this.
Very shortly, a second lion appeared along with the first, because Andrew Kirby had begun transforming as well. It's not known, however, if he had his own ability to transform as Patterson did, or if Patterson had the power to transform Kirby as well as himself.
Hmm.
But One thing was clear. This was their main reason for coming to Africa. Together, the two men attacked and devoured dozens of innocent men. At first, one lion, believed to be Patterson, would drag a victim away from the camp to a spot where the other lion, believed to be Kirby, waited. But soon both lions began to enter the camp and attack sleeping men, even dragging them from their tents. The workers took precautions like building fences around their camps, but it didn't stop the attacks. After all, Patterson and Kirby were inside the fences at night and had the strength of lions to break out. It's thought that the two killers began attacking nearby encampments and villages to escape suspicion. There was a lull of several months at the Tsavo camp where there were no lion attacks at all, but there were rumors of attacks in nearby villages. But I think they were trying to follow like the don't shit where you eat rule.
Yeah.
But they returned to the Tsavo camp after one or both had been spotted transforming to silence any potential witnesses. That's the theory as to why they came back.
Now, I'm picturing the Kirby guy as sort of just, it's Griffin Dunn from American Werewolf. And oh yeah, no, pink and round, but Griffin Dunn playing
like
Kirby.
A marshmallow.
Yeah.
Kind of like a werewolf marshmallow.
Yeah.
Like a marshmallow
Sorry,
under
guys.
the sofa.
That's the rule of three. I'm done with the
So when workers finally began fleeing by the hundreds, the British decided to take action. It was one thing when Indian and African men were being slaughtered, but another thing entirely when the British actually started losing money over it. Kareem Bucks, who overheard a man in the next tent being dragged from his bedroll and eaten, wrote this in his journal. I could hear the man's screams and the crunch of bones. The lions growled as they ate and soon began purring. I sat up till morning, too terrified to move, knowing I'd remember those sounds until my dying day. So it's pretty obvious to any modern true crime aficionado what happened next. Patterson himself was tasked with destroying the beasts who were terrorizing the men. It kind of ended up to be the same situation as like that reporter in Germany that was covering the murders he himself was committing.
Yeah.
And then he would approach the police at the crime scene and say, do you have any leads?
And how that is not a Showtime show yet, I don't know, but
it's a travesty. So Patterson, you know, he made a show of building these fabulous traps and lying in wait for the lions and using non-white men as bait. All the while, he was working out a plan to cover his tracks. Because of course, all the while he and Kirby were continuing to hunt these men. He did hunt down and kill one hapless and apparently prideless true lion in the area. But in the end, he doubled down on his treachery and killed his accomplice Kirby in his lion form, reaping untold glory in the wake of this final betrayal, which is part of the reason why I think the second lion was like so ferocious and so pissed off and trying to kill Patterson to the very end. It was Kirby, and he knew that he was being betrayed. He thought until the very end, kind of like Hitler attacking Russia. Like he kind of thought until the very last moment that they were in it together, until Patterson turned around and shot him in the back. The other thing that I want to say about Patterson is that he, like I said, we don't really know much about his life outside of his military service record, because not a lot of contemporary personal accounts remain. But he did have a career in the military of over 20 years, and he did go all over the world. He was in colonized India.
Mhm.
He was in the absolute chaos of Belfast. He went to the Middle East during World War One. It seemed like death and destruction followed him wherever he went, but in truth, he chose to go to those places that would seem the most chaotic or that would be under the least scrutiny, as a way of covering his tracks, so that he could continue killing without being caught. Sorry, Brian was giving me a look like he wanted to say something. The theory, because he was truly, he did truly become a Christian Zionist after the First World War, and his experience leading, was it called the Jewish Legion?
Mhm.
It's believed by historians that originally he saw leading that unit as an opportunity. He had the absolute unquestioned faith and trust of every man in that unit, no matter what happened. And the people who were not part of that unit, even his superiors, kept a very distinct distance from the goings on in the unit, mostly because of rampant anti-Semitism, which historians believe Patterson saw as an opportunity. But it seems like he actually did become like a believer in the cause during the course of the war, because he continued with his activism for years afterwards. But yeah, basically he was a serial killer.
Wait, so also the question I was going to ask is, could he just transform into a lion, or could he transform into like different, because like a lion in Northern Ireland might stick out a little bit.
Oh, are lions not native to Northern Ireland? Is it only Southern Ireland?
Yeah, Southern Ireland, which is what it's called. But
I believe that he could transform into different forms. So he may have been, a leprechaun in Ireland.
That is offensive. First of all,
I was trying to think of like a large predator that would be on Ireland, but like they're
famously not large. They are in fact quite small.
I feel like they probably got wolves, right? I know American Werewolf in London starts in Scotland, but I'm sure Ireland has wolves.
Bears?
There's maybe sea lions.
We'll say a wolf.
Yeah, deadly sea lions.
Yeah, deadly sea lions. They can't really go that far inland, though.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
There's IRA members.
Yeah, humans are animals. Yeah, that's true. Jen, thank you.
Thank you. Was it spooky enough? Did I make it spooky enough?
No, that got spooky.
Yeah.
That's got spooky as hell. Before we move on, listeners, I just want to mention that you can always, write us a little letter. Tell us how you feel. Tell us what scares you. You don't have to get like really personal with it, but like, just say goblins or something. You could do that at revisionistpodcast.com. Just click on the contact form, or just write us directly at revisionistpodcast@gmail.com, or via Instagram or Twitter. Also, we have a Patreon if you are so inclined and have extra money to throw around that you haven't thrown to a better cause already. And
it always helps to write written reviews on our Apple podcast page. You can write literally anything as long as you give us a high review. You can write did a big old suck on a real lion, that's fine.
You could write.
It doesn't matter.
I heart thick Kirby. I guess. I guess Kirby is just sort of all curve.
Sure.
Yeah. I love my curvy Kirby. I love my Kirby wife. There we go. We got it in 4. Yeah. Zach, you co-host the Movie Trap.
That's correct. It's a film podcast where we pick a theme. Each of us presents a movie within that theme. And then at the end of the round of 3, we pick who had the best offering, and the winner picks the next theme, basically. Right now, though, we're probably in the middle of our Halloween round, our non-regulation Halloween round. So if you want to, and this time our selection for Halloween was horror movies from 1959 or earlier. So if you want to learn about some old ass scary movies, go ahead and listen.
I think the episode on the Old Dark House dropped this past Sunday,
Sure.
which is a movie I enjoy a fair amount.
Yeah, and the next one will be on the French film, as revealed in the press episode on the French film Diabolique. So,
Ooh la la. But yeah, I think. Did you want to mention anything plugs wise?
Support your local bookstores.
Yeah, support bookstores. The gift buying season is coming up. So even in good times, it's better to support local bookstores because margins are not great typically, even when the world isn't on fire.
Even during the best of times.
Yeah. And I'll say, if you haven't yet, get fucking vaccinated. If you haven't yet and you're listening to the show, I don't know how many people that actually would apply to.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the number of people listening to the show is already extremely small.
Also, if you are listening to the show on the Apple Podcast app, oh God, why?
There are better apps, I promise you, for free.
I'm still using it, and I don't know why. It's torture. Anyway, that leads us to a little place we like to call the Judgment Hole.
Sure.
Do we like to call it that?
Well, we don't like to call it that, but it is what we call it. This is the thing, we've never called it before, never will again. Zach, you're in the Judgment Hole this time. You're soaking in it. What are you thinking?
I don't know. It's a difficult one, I think, because the sort of classic werewolf tale aspect of the alt is very fun. I like to think of people named Kirby who can take the other forms. That's fun for me.
As a K fan.
I do have a little, I don't know, I have a difficult time giving Patterson a full villain edit given his like advocacy for Jewish people during World War II and his like clear opposition to the Holocaust, which was very rare among British people to like care about the Holocaust. That's my biggest like I don't know if I could justify giving this guy like a full villain edit.
I mean, he did also participate actively in the colonization of Africa and India.
Yeah,
that's true.
And the subjugation of the Irish people.
Yeah.
His own people.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Not to lean too hard on you for a vote.
Sure. Yeah, I'll throw it for the alternate. Generally speaking, obviously it seems like these lines were probably in real life a result of possibly like they themselves were a result of the colonization yeah, so fuck it, whatever. He kind of the bed was made by the British Empire, and he will be at least in this particular instance, an avatar for it, even if he was less shitty than some British people in regards to Jewish people.
Yeah, which is a depressingly low bar.
Yeah.
But Jen, thank you for joining us.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
Zach, thank you as always.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, for everyone here at the Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
No Halloween names?
Oh fuck! Oh damn it! I did not. Bearskin. Freddy.
And I'm whatever I said at the beginning.
Have a spooky time.
Oh.
See you next week. October 9th, 1919, the Cincinnati Reds win the World Series, resulting in the Black Sox scandal, the first and final time baseball was interesting. October 9th, 1967, Che Guevara is executed for attempting to incite a revolution in Bolivia. His dying wish was to be the namesake for a Weekend Update host who somehow sucks more than Colin Jost. October 9th, 1986, The Phantom of the Opera, eventually the second longest running musical in London, opens at Her Majesty's Theatre, which does nothing to change the fact that Andrew Lloyd Webber is Michael Bay to Stephen Sondheim's Paul Thomas Anderson.
October 9th, 1967. A day after his capture, Che Guevara is executed in Bolivia. His last words are reportedly, "Check out my merch table in the back." October 9th, 1980. Pope John Paul II greets the Dalai Lama during a private audience in Vatican City. The first line of the worst-selling slash fic of all time. October 9th, 1635. Roger Williams is banished from Massachusetts Bay Colony. He goes on to found Rhode Island, or as he originally called it, Dumb Massachusetts.